I guess we skipped the intro this time, but that's okay. Hello and welcome to Top of Mind with
Oh,
Anne and
I didn't
Rachel.
play the little.
You didn't hit the it's okay. We didn't have the countdown. We're just jumping right into things. We're so excited. Rachel, you want to kick us off with the intros? Or you're laughing. I'll go
Yeah,
first. My
sure.
name is Anne.
Hello and welcome to Top Line with Anne and Rachel. My name is Rachel Profitt, and I am a white woman with long red hair that's down today. I'm wearing a maroon shirt, and I'm in my office as usual with my epic sticker wall behind me. Anne, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Anne Krupke. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a senior fast track solution architect at Microsoft. I'm a white woman with brown hair that's in a bun today, and I'm wearing a yellow shirt with my virtual background behind me. And today we have our special guest, Nicole Gump, who's joining us. Nicole, you want to introduce
Not
yourself?
your green sweater.
I'm not wearing a green sweatshirt today. I do normally wear the same green sweatshirt every time, and I'm wearing a t-shirt. It's very different.
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Nicole Gump. My pronouns are also she, her. I'm also a senior fast track solution architect. I am also a white female with purplish brown hair that is up in a bun. I'm wearing a bright yellow, or not yellow, orange tank top. And my background is blurred behind me.
So thanks for joining us, Nicole.
A lamp, like it's almost like a Tiffany lamp up
Yeah.
there behind you. Oh, it disappeared though.
See it? Yeah, there it
Your
is.
bun unblurs it.
Yeah, that is in my office.
You know, before we frantically clicked live, we were talking about Steak and Shake and Chick-fil-A.
Yes, we were.
And like inventory models of various fast food restaurants, because like this is the type of banter that I guess we like to have.
Yeah, I think we should take a poll. So if you're tuning in, let us know if you think that this would be a good idea for like a tech talk or just like a video blog or something. But we were talking about how fast food restaurants are not unlike manufacturing worlds in the sense of like having a cycle time and having servers and trying to figure out how to optimize operations. And we were talking about how, you know, Chick-fil-A does something really smart. They actually pre-make a lot of their orders, like their really common orders. So your chicken sandwich is normally just pulled from a bin instead of them building the chicken sandwich once you order, which is really basically they're making an inventory buffer of their sandwiches or fries or whatever it is, and that's allowing them to get customers through the drive-through a lot faster than say a McDonald's where they're going to custom build a sandwich every time somebody places an order. So I don't know if you guys think that would be a cool way to explore some of the features that we have in Dynamics for planning and things that you can do to, you know, shorten order fulfillment lead times, or you know, look at your operations and model them in a way. But we think it's kind of funny, like a fast food restaurant really isn't all that different from a manufacturing facility. They're just more common and smaller. I don't know. And don't get me started on airports.
Yes, actually this conversation started with airports, I think.
So Nicole, thanks again for joining us today as our special guest speaker. As our guest, we get to start with you. The question that we always start with is, what's top of mind for you? So like, what's on your mind these days?
Well, maybe a little bit of more back. Yes. Maybe a little bit more background that will help frame what's top of mind is that I have spent my whole career educationally and since I've been working in supply chain management. So that's always been my focus area the entire time that I've been working with Dynamics for the last 10 years, both on the partner side and now at Microsoft. I have been focused in specifically within supply chain on warehousing and transportation. So those are my areas of expertise. So I do a lot of work with like our supply chain engineering teams, both for warehousing and for transportation. And one of the big things that's top of mind for us right now, kind of we're in the beginning of our wave 1 2023 cycle here, and we just had a large feature go into public preview in the warehousing space, and that is our warehouse inventory transactions feature. And it's not so much a functionality change as it is a framework change. And that framework being the way we handle the warehouse inventory transactions in the Dynamics business application. That significant change for performance reasons, right? Historically, any of our customers and partners, especially that use heavily tracking dimensions in the application, such as batch or especially serialized items, would know that you've probably had somebody tell you, you shouldn't track your serial inventory all throughout, receiving, storage, inventory movements, pick, pack, and ship, all of those operations, because it's a very heavy lift on performance to have those one-to-one inventory transactions in the background, right? If I have a pallet full, go ahead.
Just to like double click on that. So the reason that it's a performance issue is because serial numbers and batch numbers, if you enable them in Dynamics, become part of the invent trans table or inventory transactions, like you just said. And when you have, so if we had cell phones, right? Cell phones have serial numbers, and we ordered 1,000, then if I don't serial track them, I would have one inventory transaction for a quantity of 1,000. But if I serial track them on receipt, then I get 1,000 lines, for one for each serial number in my invent trans table, and then the size of your invent trans table blows up, which has a big performance impact. Did I say that right?
Exactly. That is a very good summary of what is happening in the background. So to further Anne's example, right, what we would typically recommend right before this kind of new feature that's in preview now is that you would wait until the point that you are ready to pick and ship those serialized items, right? So instead of having that pallet of 1,000 cell phones, maybe I need to sell 10 to, a cell phone store that's going to then sell them to the end customers. But I just pick those 10 individual serial numbers. And at that time that I'm issuing them from my inventory, I would record what they are. So now I have far fewer transactions, right? Serial transactions at that point in time. What the new warehouse inventory transactions feature allows us to do, and what we're really doing in the background, is decoupling all of those warehouse transactions from that invent trans table. So that makes it much more performant. And now we can go to our customers and our partners and say, you can serial track your items in inventory. You can, have full traceability, and it will be much more performant when you move that pallet of 1,000 cell phones, even if you're just maybe reorganizing your warehouse and moving them from location A to location F. It's going to be much faster to do that, even with the 1,000 serial transactions behind it now. So it's very exciting.
Can you clarify what the scope of the warehouse inventory transactions are? Because I don't think it's every type of transaction you might do on a mobile device, right?
It can be. And if I can figure out how to share my screen, I was actually...
Rachel, did you have a question too?
Going to show you.
I do, yeah. There's a little present button down at the bottom you should see. And then once you present, we should be able to add it to the screen. But I had a question too.
Well,
my question was
which screen? Okay.
It should.
I'm going to see which screen is going to allow me here. Okay, I'm going to pick my external monitor.
I'll be able to preview it before I make it go live too, so it won't just magically go live.
Oh, okay, perfect. Let's try this, and you tell me.
Try to show something inappropriate to the world, Nicole.
Nicole would never.
I have control here. So does Anne. But my question was really about like, so your example there with like cell phones, like, and you kind of mentioned it like about the traceability and the trackability, but I think it's like still super critical when we're like working with like food products, right? And being able to track and trace like all those movements, right, of a particular product and like knowing which production order, you know, a particular batch or serial number went into, for example, like in an FDA kind of controlled environment. Like, do we lose that visibility and traceability when we turn this feature on?
No, and then it's more traceability. And can you still hear me? I'm getting a little bit choppy, I think, because I'm sharing too many things. You guys can hear me?
I can hear you okay.
You said, I heard something and then blur traceability. Did you say more traceability?
I did. I think I'm getting a little bit choppy audio because I'm sharing my video and I'm sharing my screen. Now. Can I? Yeah. I'm going to stop my camera. Okay. I'm going to stop my camera just to see. Did that help?
We can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, okay. Perfect. I did say more traceability because when you enabled the feature, and if now that allows customers to trace their batch or serial items throughout all of those inventory movements versus just the outbound ones, we actually have more of a full item trace, if you will, in Dynamics now. So I'd actually say you have more visibility than less visibility.
That's fantastic news. Tell me more.
And tell me more. Let me go to, I hope this is keeping up with where I'm actually clicking.
So I see you're opening up feature management.
Okay. I'll first, yep. I am. Let me show you. It came up there. Do you see the warehouse specific inventory transactions feature?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's mandatory?
Okay. No. Already didn't. Can't turn it off, right? Once you've enabled it.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot disable it. So it's
important.
Says that because I've already can't undo that action.
Okay. And what
does that make sense?
Yeah, what update, what version was this first released in?
In private preview before 32, which is the version for our Wave 1 2023. And so now if you take at least the 10.0.32, it's in public preview. So there's no flight or anything that you need to enable. You just need to come into this feature management and enable it, which the things I want to point out that engineering has done is, unlike a lot of our features that need to be enabled in this work, that when you click to enable this particular feature, because it is a rate change, right, for our inventory transactions, it will run some logic at the time that you enable or try to feature, and try to identify anywhere particular environment that there will be breaking changes. So we report back, right, and say, these are you need to look at because they're potentially breaking changes. You have to actually address those. You can then go and enable this feature. So we're trying to put some guardrails around it, right? So that people aren't kind of inadvertently enabling it and then breaking things that they've already developed around the warehouse transactions.
Do you have like an example?
There is some additional kind of safeguards to that. And let me show you what happens when you do have this enabled.
I think Nicole might be on.
Say that again, Rachel. You broke up for me.
Yeah, I was just asking, like, if you had an example of what a breaking, like, what one of those breaking changes might be. Is it like a certain way, like your item model group is set up, or a dimension group, or something like that? Like, what's an example of like a breaking change, or is it like transactions or data in a certain way? I don't know if you have an example.
Yes to both. If you can hear me. Yeah, the customizations that sometimes our customers or our partners do around the warehouse inventory transactions, right? They might add a custom step or custom logic to, say, a sales order picking workflow. So those types of customizations could potentially be impacted, but also from the data perspective, right? To your point, if you were reading invent trans data to, say, and then export that to the data lake or report on it, through Power BI reporting, that you have now new tables, right? With this new warehouse inventory transactions feature that you would need to read your warehouse inventory transaction data from, instead of reading it from invent trans. So it has a data and a reporting implication as well.
Got it.
Looks like we've got a question from Adil. Long time no see.
Hey, Adil.
Is the main reason for this feature performance improvement? Does it reconcile or sync with invent trans real time, or does it require a batch job to be scheduled?
Yes, the main reason is performance improvement. And actually, we've talked a lot about it enabling our customers and our partners to use the tracking dimensions, the batch and serial, but we have actually also seen performance improvements even when tracking dimensions aren't being used. That means even your kind of standard non-tracked products, when you process them through the various warehouse flows, would also be faster, more performant. So that's the good news. There isn't a sync to the invent trans. Like, we've essentially decoupled it and put them into a new table, and then those transactions are being archived like very frequently, and then there's like a new form in the UI where you can see the warehouse inventory transactions, and that would be like the data table you're reading from for reporting and stuff as well. Hopefully that answers. We have, I guess I'll say, if anybody's listening and is interested in a lot more of the technical detail around this, we hold office hours in 2 time zones every Thursday, and we also have a Yammer group that's dedicated to this. A lot of the work that we've been doing with engineering, while it was in private preview and still now, while it's in public preview, is to get our customers and our partners to enable this feature and test it right on their data sets, and kind of report back to us on the performance improvements that they are seeing. So I'll point out one other thing while I'm sharing still, is that once you've enabled the feature, nothing's necessarily going to happen right away, right? Just because the feature is enabled, the system will actually continue to use the current warehouse inventory transaction framework, the one that is tied to invent trans. And that is until you would come in to your warehouse management parameters on the main general tab, come all the way to the bottom, and you'll see a new tab that appears once the feature is enabled called Warehouse Inventory Transaction Mechanism. We might rename that for the GA, but essentially what it is a list of all your different workflows within warehouse management, right? These are all of our work order types that we select from when we configure work templates and location directives, all those kind of core warehouse management concepts. So you can see, and this was to your question earlier, and it can, right, be used for sales orders, but also, finished goods, inventory movements, quality checks, and essentially every workflow that we support, you would enable separately, right? So you would say, maybe I want to limit the scope of this when I first enable it, right? And just test it on maybe my inventory movements, right? And I've actually only have it checked in this Contoso environment for containers. And that's like our packing form in the UI when we close containers. So what that tells the system now is, okay, when I'm doing this particular workflow, I want you to go ahead and use the new warehouse inventory transaction framework. And so you can test it in a very limited way. And then eventually, right, you could enable more of these different types of workflows as you're more comfortable with the testing. So we have done that very purposefully. Yeah.
So can we go back to the earlier example of where we've got 1,000 cell phones that are all serialized, and we're going to receive them in on a purchase order? Let's just say we're a reseller. How would warehouse inventory transactions change? Like, what would have happened in the past if I had those serial enabled? Is we'd have 1,000 invent trans records, one for each serial. So can you talk to me about what's happening behind the scenes if we enabled purchase orders for warehouse inventory transactions?
Yes. So now if you would enable purchase orders here and you receive those 1,000 serials, they essentially get grouped, right? There's a couple of new tables that are behind the scenes, and there's recordings and documentation on the Yammer group from all the previous office hours where the engineering team has discussed in detail the breaking changes and what the new framework looks like. But essentially it's grouped right into a separate table as a transaction. And that is much more performant than us hitting the invent trans table 1,000 times. And it's actually not 1,000 times in the old framework. It's 4,000 times because we have 1,000 for the pick. We have 1,000 for the temporary put to the user who picked it up. That would be me if I'm receiving, right? I'm the receiving clerk. And then I have another 1,000 transactions for me, transferring it from my user to the actual put location, which would be wherever I'm storing it, right, in my inventory. So that's why the performance hit is so heavy, because even with 1,000 serials, it's not 1,000 transactions, it's 4 for every warehouse transaction. So we've essentially taken that away and made that say 4 instead of 4,000, right? But while still being able to track the serial. So
this might be a silly question.
Apply then when you're using advanced warehouse management with work, or does it apply if you're just using good old fashioned, product receipt directly on a purchase order as well, without the mobile device and work?
Yeah, that's a great question, Rachel. This is specifically for the advanced warehousing, the warehouse management module, right? Where we're doing these different types of work. So you have to have these work transactions. If you're using basic kind of warehousing flows in our inventory management module, or like you said, directly posting receipts or picks from the source documents, that is not going to be impacted because those don't use the current warehouse framework, right? Today.
Okay. That was the exact same question I had, actually. So,
Great
so
minds.
let's say we did the warehousing app to do the receipt, which is really a registration. We still have to come back in and post the actual product receipt, right? So when I do the
Yes.
receiving using warehouse inventory transactions through the app, and then I come back and post the product receipt is just going to be a single update to the invent trans table for one line, or at that point would it split out into the 1,000 serial numbers?
That should not split. I mean, it shouldn't function any differently than it does today, right? Because this is only impacting like not even really the registration of that purchase order on the app, because from a work perspective, right, the purchase order work is only generated after that registration, right? To say, okay, somebody go pick it up from that default receiving location, your receiving dock, and then move them to whatever storage location, right? So the registration and like the posting of the product receipt is not impacted by this feature.
Okay. I think I'm going to have to go over to that Yammer channel and watch some videos, because I'm definitely very interested in how this works.
I definitely am too. And I have so many questions about like, well, yeah, costing, like what does this do to costing, and like what effect does this have on like, yeah.
Well, we don't generally recommend that you enable cost by serial number, right? Although
I know,
it is something
but like
you
if somebody
could do.
did.
Right. I feel like we should do a deep dive on this. Like, well, I mean, I don't know, Nicole, if you had like a tech talk planned or something, but I'd love to see some like, I definitely need to go watch more videos, because I think this is really exciting from a performance perspective, because I know that serial and batch numbers are one of the big killers of performance. So it's really exciting to see us moving in that direction, and it just makes me have so many questions.
Yeah, of course. And one of the reasons I brought this up as top of mind is because, you know, we're on this journey where this is in public preview now. It is slated to be GA in wave 2, and then eventually, right? And Anne, you've lived this journey with planning optimization, but eventually this will be the default warehouse inventory transaction framework, right? So we are trying to get our customers and our partners familiar with this and enabling it and testing it, because eventually, right, if you use warehouse management, you know, call it a year and a half, 2 years from now, and you're in a new implementation, like this will be the default framework. It won't be the one that it is today that's tied to invent trans. So that's important for some other work that engineering is doing for the WMS module within our Dynamics supply chain management application. So yeah, it's a building block, right? But it's really important to, you know, kind of get in front of it now before you're forced to uptake it later. So that's kind of key.
Rachel, do you want to take the last 2 minutes to talk about the new and exciting? No,
not enough time to do it justice. Next week.
Sounds to be like people will just have to tune in next week to hear about some exciting things that we've been working on and might have published.
No.
Nicole knows what we're talking about.
I know. I'm excited.
You're in the
she's part of it too.
Yeah.
I didn't want to steal your thunder, so I talked about something else. So,
it's cool.
But sorry, I monopolized all your time.
No, you did not. Perfect. Absolutely. I think all of our viewers probably loved this. I know I loved it.
Me too.
And I just want to thank you, Nicole, for coming on today and sharing, you know, with us and answering all of our questions. And, you know, thanks to all of our viewers for joining us on Top of Mind with Anne and Rachel and Nicole.
We'll come next week to find out our new surprise.
Bye, everyone.